Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kevin Rigsted, the chairman of the Goffstown Zoning Board of Adjustment. Welcome to the May meeting. Before we get into the items on the itinerary tonight, I want to first thank Derek Horn for being our administrator for 7.5 years. Derek is moving on to a new job in City Hall here. He's in the back. You can say hi, Derek. And he was here before most of us, if not all of us, and on the zoning board, and provided a lot of leadership and guidance in making sure that we understood our roles, responsibilities, and kept the meetings flowing. And I believe served us, but also served the town of Goffstown. So I'm going to help give him a round of applause, Derek, for all you've done for the board. On the other side of that is Brian Rose. Brian Rose is now the zoning code enforcement officer for the town of Goffstown, plus many other titles he has. But in that capacity, he helps us here as the new administrator for the zoning board. And Brian, welcome.
Thank you.
Hopefully we won't be too big of a challenge for you, but I know it'll be a great relationship. Derek's shoes are hard to fill, but I know you'll do a great job here. So
Thank you.
Big feet.
they both have big feet, yes. So, all right, thank you so much. With that, I'm going to read what we have, our normal introduction. The Goffstown Zoning Board is an elected board of 5 members and up to 5 appointed alternates. Currently, the board has 5 elected members and 2 alternates. If anyone is interested in serving on the ZBA, please see Brian Rose for more information. The board has a posted agenda for each meeting and tends to follow the items in order. The board will open the public hearing on an application to receive testimony from applicants, abutters, and affected parties, and ask questions about the appeal. The public hearing will then be closed, and the board will enter into a deliberative session to discuss the merits of the appeal. For each application, the board will decide to approve with conditions, deny, or continue to a later meeting. You are welcome to watch the deliberations this evening, or you can contact Brian Rose at Town Hall to get the results. For an applicant's request to be approved, there must be an affirmative vote of at least 3 members. An applicant can request a continuance if there is not a full 5-member board to act on an application. If you are aggrieved by a decision made by the ZBA tonight, you have the right to appeal to the Superior Court. However, before appealing to the Superior Court, you must request a rehearing with this board to preserve your right to appeal. Rehearing requests must be filed within 30 days of the decision and state all reasons why the decision was illegal or unreasonable. Failure to request a rehearing may forfeit your ability to appeal to Superior Court. And with that, I'd like to have the board members and alternates introduce themselves, starting with Brian.
I'm Brian Rose. I'm the Planning and Zoning Administrator.
Joanne Duffy. Kathy Hooten.
Gail LeBrecq.
Len Stewart, alternate.
Vivian Blondo, alternate.
Thank you all. The first item that is on the agenda tonight that's not on the note is that because we weren't here last meeting, we had nothing on the agenda, we still have to vote on the chairman, the vice chairman, and recording secretary positions. For this, since Ed is not here tonight, as far as voting members, I think it's appropriate to have an alternate vote on these type of things. I'm gonna look at Len, if that's okay, for these votes. Anyone have any nominations for the chairman position?
I nominate you again.
Okay,
I will second the nomination.
any discussion? Okay, and I'll abstain from that vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you.
The next position is the vice chairman. Is there any nominations for that position?
I'll nominate Kathy.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Kathy is nominated for the vice chair. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right,
Thank you.
congratulations. And the remaining position is the recording secretary.
And I will nominate Gail.
Anybody rushing for the second one on that?
Second.
Any discussion? Gail being nominated for the recording secretary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so I guess we'll stay where we're seated. Doesn't have to move. Thank you all. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the March 1st, 2011 meeting. Any comments, changes, questions on those minutes?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as submitted.
Any, I'll second that. Any comments, discussion?
I just don't remember if I was there.
It was the meeting where we ended up approving the Harvest Christian Fellowship application.
Yes, you were public.
You were, yes. You were here.
Okay.
All right, any further questions? All right, a motion to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? Okay, great, 5-0-0. Okay, we'll move on. We have 3 items on the agenda this evening. As far as public hearings, the first one is, have to help me pronounce it if I do it incorrectly later, Paul DeRochers.
Exactly right.
Applicant owner is seeking a variance to allow the construction of a breezeway and an attached garage to the existing single-family home that has an accessory apartment. The variance is required because the proposed breezeway and garage will be set back approximately 8.5 feet from the side property line, whereas Section 4.3 of the zoning ordinance requires a side yard setback of 15 feet. The property is located at 52 Fairview Street, which is map 16, lot 179, in the residential 2 district. Before we act on this application, we need to determine if it has regional impact. And Brian, I believe, made a position that he does not believe it has regional impact. Any-
I'll move to find that the application has no regional impact.
Second.
All right, there's a first and a second that it does not have a regional impact. Any comments, questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstain? Okay. All right, so is someone here representing the applicant for the DeRochers? Please come forward, sir. Have a seat. We want to be able to hear you, see you, and so does the rest of town of Goffstown because you are on TV.
Good evening. Pleasure to be here this evening.
You can introduce
Can you-
yourself.
Yeah, please. Can you introduce yourself and what you're wanting to do here?
My name is Paul DeRocher. I reside at 52 Fairview Street. That's located in Penardville. And as suggested, I'd like to build a breezeway with an attached garage onto my existing house.
Okay. Anything else? I see you have an application that you filled out with, probably with the help of Brian here. And you're seeking a variance, correct? A variance from zoning ordinance paragraph 4.3, side yard setback.
That's correct.
Anyone have any questions for the applicant?
Is this a one-car or two-car garage?
2-car.
Two-car.
I have a question.
Please.
I believe, don't you already have a breezeway or something there?
I have a porch there now I'd like to take down and rebuild.
Okay. I thought it was more like a breezeway. I said, why has he got an application for a breezeway and a garage? But, okay. I also noticed when I went there that your driveway is large. If you would not have to put in for a driveway permit.
I do not believe so, no.
I think the driveway for, when I saw where he was gonna put the garage, is probably enough for 2.5 cars. That's how wide this driveway is, so.
We've actually fit 3 wide.
For 3?
Yeah.
I was trying, that's it.
So you've been basically parking your cars in front of the breezeway that you have now? Or,
And on the side of it as well.
and on the side of it as well? Okay.
There is an existing curb cut for the driveway already, however, for the width of 3 cars there.
Yes.
or- One question, what's the setback between this existing finished porch here that I see? How far is that away from the property line versus what you want to do with adding the garage?
The existing porch is 12 feet. I'd like to actually take that completely down. The breezeway is going to be about 6 feet. And then it'll be a 20-foot garage attached to that.
I'm just trying to figure out how far the side of the existing porch is from the setback. Is it a conforming setback now?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, it's probably around 20 feet now.
Okay, so it meets the side setback requirement now, and that's what you're asking us to waive. Okay.
So you're gonna keep the breezeway there and then add an additional 20 feet on past the breezeway for the two-car garage?
I'm going to destruct the current
Breezeway,
porch.
yeah.
Well, it's not really a breezeway, actually it's a porch.
Okay.
And then build a breezeway with a two-car attached. Now, the porch is currently 12 feet, the breezeway is only gonna be 6. Of course, to accommodate the two-car garage.
I see.
So without the breezeway, then you would be impacted, you would have 14 feet from the property line.
Right, breezeway is basically building a breezeway just to have a front door. So it's basically the width of a door. Of course, you gotta frame it on the side, so that's where we're estimating about 6 feet. Otherwise, the only way to into the house is by inside the garage, and people coming over, of course, would want to come through an actual door.
Granting of this variance has us ask and answer 5 questions. The first being, that it would not be contrary to public interest. The second one, talking about the spirit of the ordinance being observed. Third, granting it would be doing substantial justice. Fourth is it doesn't diminish surrounding property values. And the fifth is that you tell us why that literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in a necessary hardship. When I did a drive-by of the neighborhood and the houses around, I see that there are some houses with garages and some in your neighborhood. What is your neighborhood like? Is your house just like your other neighbors where they don't have garages, that houses are close together, things are built next to the property line? Describe your neighborhood. Tell me why your property is different. Just tell me about your neighborhood.
I believe the original assessment's correct, whereas there's a number of houses that both do and do not have a garage. Some have 2 stalls, some have single, some have none. So I think it will blend in well and actually probably improve the house around it by bringing up the property value.
If you were to build a 1-car garage, do you know if that would be, you would still meet the minimum side yard setbacks? If you were to build a 1-stall garage versus a 2-stall garage? I don't know if you've measured that out.
I didn't measure it out.
Okay,
I can't say other than guesstimating.
okay.
Mr. Chair, just for everyone's information, the side setback is 15 feet, so it would need an additional 7 feet. You're looking for 8.5 feet, I think, is that right?
Correct.
From the property line. So 6.5 feet is the additional amount of room that it would need. So that's actually roughly the width of the breezeway itself. No.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions?
Well, just to throw out there, another option could possibly be, did you ever consider a 1-car garage that had the length for 2 cars instead of the width for 2 cars?
I did, and I think it will look more out of place next to the houses around me, then it wouldn't. Of course, the convenience portion of it is who's leaving first in the morning and what have you. But the length of this garage would be so that it'll go beyond the house so much that I would think it'd be an eyesore for neighbors as well as myself to go into the, you have this structure now going to your backyard. The bowling alley.
If I may, the logic that I see, you want to maintain that side entrance off the existing porch now, which is the reason for the breezeway going in. I take it like a lot of people in these style homes, you probably don't use the front door all that much. All the traffic in the house
Exactly.
is really in and out through that side door. So,
Absolutely.
and that's why you want to maintain that rather than
Right.
switching the traffic around to the front door.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Mr. DeRochers.
Thank you for your time.
Anyone else here speaking on behalf of the applicant? Speaking for this application? Anyone here? Yes.
I think I am.
Speaking-
I've done this before. I'm
Please
here-
come forward.
I'm here because of them, if that's what you mean.
Yes, please come forward. I try not to use cryptic language, but I tried to be inclusive. And ma'am, please state your name.
My name is Sunshine Voisin.
Okay?
I live at the property that abuts him the closest, that's probably most affected by the garage going up,
What,
48 Fairview Street.
okay. To the right. That's
To
to
the
the
right.
right, okay.
Okay?
I've already talked to Paul, we have a friendly relationship, just so you know. I'm sure not every neighbor does, but I went to Paul's house when I got the notice of the meeting and spoke with him, and we already talked about a lot of these issues, but I didn't know, I've never been to one of these, how formal it had to be, so I put it in writing and I have a copy.
Okay? We
but-
will take that if that's okay. and Brian will take that into the record.
So all the items on here we've pretty much already discussed, but I didn't know how formal it had to be. My biggest issue, Paul's house is beautiful, he does a great job keeping it up. I honestly, the two-car garage, it'll make it a little tighter between the houses. Again, he does a nice job keeping his property up. I'm sure he's gonna do a good job and make this look nice as well, so it'll probably fit in just fine. My concern being 8.5 feet away from that property, a couple of minor issues, like if the roof pitches towards my yard, I'm hoping a gutter could be installed. That's the one thing we didn't talk about the other day, 'cause I didn't think of it. A gutter could be installed that maybe would just direct water away from my yard, because I struggle with water issues in my basement currently, and I didn't want to worsen that. The other thing was that in order to improve the look of the garage, and so that I'm not looking at a 20-foot wall of siding from my house, that a couple of, either one or two windows be installed with shutters and blinds and just make it look a little more dressed up, which is something I did on my property as well for my neighbors on the other side. I also asked Paul, and again, this is more a courtesy, but more as a formality between us, because I don't want there to be any tension throughout the process, that there not be, that 8.5-foot area not be utilized for storing stuff and putting junk, because it's 8.5 feet. It tends to be the part that, we'll just throw it there, I just don't want it to be that part that I look at. And my last request, which was my biggest request and concern, was that we install a retaining wall, and anybody who's driven by would probably know why. But his property sits about maybe 2.5 to 3 feet higher than mine, and there's a drop-off currently, a dirt drop-off. And about 7-8 years ago, when I bought the property, there was a fence there, which was removed, and that fence acted as a retaining wall in a way. It was sort of weird, it held up the land. Paul removed that fence in an effort to make the yard look nicer, because the chain link fence looks a little impersonal. But it left a dirt hill. And we kind of broached the subject of putting up a retaining wall or something to neaten it, but it's never been done over the years, and I spoke with Paul and said, this is the time. How do you feel about, I know you want the garage to neaten up the property for you. I would like the retaining wall. We've talked about this. I'm not asking he pay for it. I said, I'll go 50-50 with you. It's just something I'd like to do to make it look a little nicer on that side of the house now that we're doing all this construction in that area.
Okay.
So I have that listed out on here. I have a copy for you and for Paul.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? And I see on your property that you're facing on your garage side, similar situation as he is, really close to the property line too. So it's,
Yeah.
you would describe the neighborhood as very cozy?
Yeah, you know,
Houses and pretty close together?
yeah, I mean, they're fairly close together. Yeah, it's not, I mean, some streets are worse than others, but our area, and like I said, I think there's some houses on the street that are just not kept up as well, you know, and there's some, I think mine, Paul's, and a few in our area are nicely maintained.
Okay.
I think, you know, we are probably pretty equal in that area.
And you would agree that it's kind of a mixture on the houses that do and don't have garages in your
Yeah,
area?
absolutely. And I agree with him. I think the single-car garage going all the way back would look definitely weird and out of place.
Okay. Okay. And I know when I did the driveway, it seemed up the hill more, there was definitely a lot more houses with more garages up there.
Yeah,
It was almost
it's
a
sort of like
different
the bottom
era.
of the street's a little bit tighter and maybe not kept up quite as well as you go up a little higher, and we're sort of right in the halfway point. I
Yeah.
am actually. As you go up the street, it gets a little bit cozier, it's nice, you know, it's a little bit more maintained.
Oh, I meant cozy by, everybody's a little closer together.
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah, it's pretty much consistent, I'd say, throughout the street.
Okay.
Do you know how much,
Okay.
do you know how much, signage you have from your garage to your property line on the
Oh,
right-hand
God.
side?
I don't have a garage, I have a carport.
A carport?
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's, God. What do you think, Stephen? I'm gonna guess 12 feet, maybe? Yeah, it was an existing thing when I bought it, so I didn't even know there was 15-foot step backs till I got this letter. But yeah, that's about how far I have, if that, 10, 12 feet.
And if you were to walk around your neighborhood.
Yep.
And I'm looking at this CDM, this
Now, just,
survey here.
Yeah.
If you were to walk around the neighborhood, would you say that there are, right now, existing homes that have garages that probably are within 10 feet of the property lines?
I'm sure that, yes, there are some that are more so on the bottom of our street, I can say that.
Okay.
On the bottom of our street, I know that there's some that are like right on that property line or real close. So yeah, I definitely would say there are some, maybe 50-50, because up the street, it's probably a little more spread out, a little bit different.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is anyone else speaking on behalf of the applicant? Anyone here speaking against this application? Any abutters? Interested parties? Anybody wants to speak? Okay. Any last questions of the applicant before we close the public hearing? Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing on this application. Anyone have any motions or comments or discussion?
When I look at it, I really would like, I would like to, I would love to take the 6 feet of the breezeway and add it on to the side yard setback and become more in conformity of the zoning regulations, but I also know that when, we live in New Hampshire and we have snow and mud and slush, and the only other front door that they have is probably the formal front door, and this is probably the door where all the boots go through with all the snow and go in that way and then probably enter into a kitchen or whatever, into the home. So in practical, it might be better for our ordinances if we eliminated the 6-foot breezeway, but I think for the home, I think it's needed. And I would go against my belief that we should eliminate it and say that I think we should keep it for those reasons. It's more practical for a homeowner to have that side entrance.
I think the proximity, if you look at the spacing of the homes in pretty much all of those neighborhoods off Mast Road in that area, it's not going to make the spacing a lot tighter than it is. All those homes are pretty, as Kevin put it, cozy. And I don't think it's uncharacteristic of the neighborhood or it'll do anything to, disrupt the values of the neighborhood at all. And again, you point out the practical reasons. There's many, many people that I know that the formal front door of the house is rarely, if ever, used, maybe if grandma comes for a visit, but that's about it. And it is, I think it's a practical solution. I have no opposition to it.
And I definitely think I would rather see a two-car garage on the property than looking at cars parked on the lawn or to the side. Even if he had a one-car garage, that would still mean that another car would probably park outside next to the garage. So what have you, as far as aesthetics are concerned and the appearance of the property, and we obviously have heard that he is he takes very good care of his property, according to his neighbor, that I would think removing cars from the property and housing them inside would be better for the neighborhood than having cars parked outside in the winter, or any time of the year, to be honest, any time.
Okay. Any other comments, any motions?
I just had another comment. It appears from the property card that this house was built in 1947, which was
My husband was born.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
And even if you look at the lot, there's really no other place to put this, even if you were to go onto the other side, and then you'd have to do renovations to add a door, probably wind up walking into a bedroom, so I don't have any problems with this.
I just want to make a statement that years ago I lived in this neighborhood, and I walked up Folk Street, Fairview Street, Plummer Street, Eden Street, and when I did live there, the zoning ordinance was none. And garages were built where they wanted to be built. Breezeways were added. And so to say that they're all conforming in those streets, I would say nil. So now that we have the zoning ordinance in place, the newer homes, the upper part of it, Orchard Street and all that, is conforming because of the zoning ordinance we have. Years ago, we didn't have that zoning ordinance. That's just my comment. But I did walk all the streets that I mentioned, and then some.
Your baby.
Heald Street and all of them. But yeah, I would say that's my, why I think that they're more conforming than some of the other houses that you would go if you were to walk the whole neighborhood. That's it.
And I will just offer one other comment that I think with some of the things that have come before this board, we wish neighbors had such cordial discussions
Right.
of issues before they got to this board as you seem to have had with your neighbors. So I'll make a motion, if nobody wants to offer, that we approve the variance as requested.
Okay.
I'll second it for continued discussion.
Sure.
The continued discussion that I have is, what do we do about these issues that the neighbor brought up as possible conditions? Is that within our realm of jurisdiction to put conditions on, like no storage in the 8.5? We will grant it as long as there's no storage in the 8.5 feet. That,
Putting the retaining wall
putting the
in.
retaining wall in, dressing up the side of the
Right. garage,
and the water issue, which I think is very concerning about putting the drainage on. So I'd like to amend the motion to add those additional conditions.
Certainly accept it as a friendly amendment.
Okay, the condition one would be that the drainage off of the roof.
Gutters.
Gutters need-
Gutters toward the street, essentially, rather than
Gutters.
off the side.
Gutters need to be installed along the roof line with the drainage going in a direction not towards the neighbors. That the side of the garage will be dressed up
With windows?
with windows.
Window or windows? She said one or two.
At least one, with at least one window. that there would be no storage in the setback of 8.5 feet, and that a retaining wall be installed along the property line.
She had said that it was gonna be 50/50. Should we include that part in there?
I don't know, what do you think?
That's a monetary thing, so it's probably more, well, all of it is, but.
What is she saying?
Well, you're trying to decide whether or not you discuss the 50/50.
I think that's kind of between them, but
We're trying to discuss, I didn't get what the discussion was.
the discussion is to install the retaining wall, whether or not we should include that 50% of it would be paid for by the neighbor.
She already made that.
I already made the offer, so I guess it wouldn't hurt to include it.
It's going to be in the minutes anyway, so
Right.
you know, you don't have to.
But because she made the offer, why don't we include it? I think that's, I think she's very, very sincere in that offer and taking hold of the opportunity, the timing and the opportunity to get it done for both of them.
So we're comfortable, oh, go ahead.
I sort of have a problem with it because first of all, you don't have any specifications for the retaining wall, so you
Okay.
can say they need a retaining wall, but you need to really say where and what kind of wall and what it would be constructed of and that kind of thing. And the thing with no storage on the side of his property, I think that's very unreasonable. I think it needs to be neighbor to neighbor, because if you say no storage, the code enforcement officer can actually go out there and cite them for storing something, which is ridiculous. You know, I think it just has to be something where they respect each other. I don't think the town should be getting involved with that.
Okay.
I think.
I can offer just an opinion that, since this is a variance from the normal rule, I think the board has the right to impose such a rule or regulation that no storage could be could be a condition of approval. As to how much that is enforceable, that might be more difficult, but, nonetheless, it's, I think, still within your purview to impose it if the board wishes.
We already have rules saying how much that they can't have unregistered cars. We already have rules addressing that. I mean, if I'm going to go there, put my bicycle on the side of the garage, and all of a sudden the neighbor calls and says, hey, they got their bicycle stored on the side of the garage, and we've got it in the minutes that they can't have anything on the
And
side.
these two neighbors may get along, but in the future.
Right. It may be a new
different
neighbor.
people and-
I mean, you'll be running, you're the zoning officer, you're going to be running into every little complaint. I don't think we should have to enforce that. I think if the neighbors are neighbors, have block parties.
So take out the no storage in the 8.5, take that out
Right.
and remove the retaining wall?
The retaining wall, if Mr. DeRosa says, I'm going to put a retaining wall, and it's going to be $500,000 or, $10,000, and you're going to pay $5,000, all of a sudden he can get the material for, it's going to be one of these things, I don't know, I think they can work it
A
out.
way to address that would just be to make a condition that the two property owners work together
Yeah.
on the price and the construction of it
May I add something to that?
as a private agreement.
Not at
The
this
two
time.
property owners work together on the retaining wall, period, on the construction of a retaining wall.
Yeah,
It's just so
I'm just
much-
gonna throw my comment in that I think I'm not so sure about any of these conditions, frankly, but, just because it's so hard to enforce and you're telling them I don't know what's the way the gutters and the stuff, the neighbors and the builders gotta figure that out, in my opinion. Or the builder and the owner gotta figure that out. Hopefully, they do the right thing in all these cases, taking care of their neighbors and stuff. If not, that's something this board is not, in my mind, in a land use situation, shouldn't tread too much on. I mean, we do place conditions on things, but they need to be for a reason. So I'm not gonna sit and say no to every one of them. We need to be careful on how many we assess and without it going into it. We're not a planning board in that
Right.
level, so.
And it's not a commercial piece of property.
Right. But they are going very close to a property line. And I do feel that the neighbor came here to just, to tell us what were some of the conditions that she would not be contradicting this application and wanting us to deny it. And I do think that the drainage issue with the water coming off the roof is primary. That is a primary condition. And that's why I threw them all out there, because I wasn't sure. But I do think that that is very important, because they are so close, and there apparently is some contour to that land which could impact the water issues that she said that she has on her property. So the water issue of the drainage, to me, is a condition that I would definitely keep on.
Can we discuss it in the approval for the applicant to consider these things? Please consider, roof and water drainage as you build this garage. Please consider retaining walls and slope issues again for water. Please consider, looks, or dressing up of the side of the garage. Yeah, the aesthetics of it as you, to the neighbors as you build this garage, and leave it at that, and without telling them exactly how many windows.
Well, I would,
direction.
on the water issue, I think that, you are 8.5 feet from a property line, which could cause water issues. I think it is important that you do state that the water needs to drain away from the property line. I think that is important. Anybody could put up a gutter and have the drain come right down and go right towards the neighbor's property line, which contradicts the reason what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure the water does not flow towards it.
Maybe you can handle that through the building department when they get their building permit, that the building inspector makes sure that there's some sort of gutters installed to ensure that the rainwater is not running onto the abutting property.
I'd like to leave the water issue in as a condition. I don't
Right,
mind the
but
other
make it-
three.
But make it, instead of just saying you have to put gutters in, saying to the satisfaction of the building inspectors to ensure that the water does not encroach on the
Seems reasonable.
Sure.
abutting property
Sure.
or whatever.
So it would be that
So someone actually
the
checks
roof will have gutters at the roof.
I think we got your, you don't have to repeat all the words, I don't think, but unless you want her to.
No, I've got it.
Okay.
So you're focusing on which conditions? The ones
I'm
you're gonna-
focusing on the water issue. I don't know how everyone feels about the retaining wall. Brian thought the storage issue was okay, but,
The drainage issue is the most
the
important.
most important.
Because you have situations where the neighbor will come in and say, this neighbor's property is draining right on my property, and what the other neighbor's gonna say is, I don't care, it's not my water, it's on your property. So I think the drainage issue is really important, that
And
it's,
I'm also wondering if the land is sloped, as the abutter says that she's down below, and it's sloped up like that, when they go to construct the garage, they're going to be probably infringing in that area when they're doing the foundation work and everything. So that, if there is a need for a retaining wall, that again is something that the building inspector could certainly get involved with. So maybe you could leave it up to him, whether he makes the determination whether it needs a retaining wall.
Assessment of both the drainage
Mhm.
and the retaining wall, which affects drainage too.
he would see how important the issue is on the
Okay,
Right.
retaining wall.
anything else, Kathy, on that?
Nope, I'm all set.
So you're gonna just limit it to the drainage and the retaining wall aspect reviewed by the building inspector.
Is that the consensus of the board? Then that's what I'm going to limit it to.
Okay. All right. Any questions or further discussion on that?
Are you okay with that, Lynn?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the variance as requested with two conditions. One, that they consider the drainage off the roof, making sure that it doesn't flow across property lines as best as possible, and then during construction, assess whether or not retaining wall is necessary, and both of these would be assessed by the building inspector upon completion of the project. Seem reasonable? And that was firsted by Len, seconded by Kathy.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstained, I think that's 5-0.
Who's the voting alternate in this one?
Len. And I think just for funds, the next application will have Vivian be the voting alternate. Is that okay, Len, Vivian? Okay.
Okay.
Congratulations, I guess. So we're going to move on to the next application. Kenneth and Tanya Dubois, applicants' owners, are seeking a variance to allow the construction of an above-ground pool, a maximum of 8 foot into the inner 50-foot buffer area of the Wetland and Surface Water Conservation Overlay District, forever to be known as the WSWC. Whereas no structures are allowed within the 100-foot of the WSWC Overlay District under Section 13.3.5 of the zoning ordinance. The property is located at 31 Parsons Drive, which is map 7, lot 71-5 and -6 in the residential 1 district and falls within the WSWC overlay district. Before we act on the application, we need to determine whether or not this application has regional impact. And Brian has recommended to the board that it does not have regional impact. Any motions or comments?
I'll move that it does not have regional impact.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor
Oops.
say,
Pardon me, I spoke out if I'm not the voting alternate on that.
I'll do it.
Should I?
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you.
pardon
Thank you,
me.
Len.
I should have
You
been
read your
watching
mind.
that.
He made the motion
Step
for him.
procedurally
So
out.
who made the motion?
Yeah,
Vivian?
yeah.
And you seconded it?
Yeah.
All those in favor? Not Len.
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. No abstention or noes. Okay, so we have in front of us the staff review. Brian says, this application is being submitted because the applicant wants to construct an above-ground pool behind their existing house located in R1 zoning district. When the lot was created and the house was there, was a wetland setback of 50 feet. The wetland behind this house has now been determined to be defined surface water. This application was sent to the Conservation Commission on April 27, 2011, in accordance with section 15.3.7.6 for review and comment, as it involves a WSWC overlay district setback. And we have received email today. David Neiman has done a site walk and provided a recommendation to the board. And I believe all of you have the email.
Can I just ask a question? So did that mean that it went from 50 feet to 100?
Yes, after the lot was,
Okay.
I can clarify
Create-
that. What happened was when the house was built, it originally had just a 50-foot setback from the wetland. And subsequently, there was a rule in the zoning ordinance that got implemented that defined any surface water as needing a 100-foot setback. And this just happened to be one of the surface waters that were defined by that rule. And not every wetland has the same definition. Surface waters are a little bit more like streams and actual lakes and things like that. But this drainage way behind his house happens to be one of those defined surface waters. And so it got bumped up to a 100-foot setback. That's the reason.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Yes, sir. Please come forward, state your name, and tell us what you'd like to do.
My name's Kenneth Dubois, and I plan on putting a 15 by 30 foot above ground pool directly butt up against the existing deck to the back of the home. As stated, the back of the home, when it was first built, was very close to a 50-foot setback, which is a buffer to a wetland. And then later on, the 100-foot surface water setback was added. At this point in time, there's not a single location on the property where you would be able to put a pool without having a variance, let alone probably even if I was to modify the current deck that's there. But essentially what we plan on doing is we're going to, essentially the pool's gonna sit on land that's already fairly level. But directly behind where the pool is gonna go, there's a couple of trees which are already dead and are endangering the property, and some brush. So we're gonna push back into that buffer approximately 6 to 8 feet. We're gonna remove the trees and the brush. We're gonna bring in some clean fill. My contractor will erect a silt fence that will stay during the construction. There is no surface water in the area where we will be doing this. The drainage, if anything, will be improved. We're gonna plant in the area where the trees are currently a mix of grasses and wildflowers, so it will not be mowed. So it will not disturb the wetland in any way, shape, or form. And we're gonna be very careful to make sure we landscape properly and make the project all look very nice. And the purpose of it is for the enjoyment of my family. And I also have a 2-year-old son who has a developmental disability, and it's gonna be used for him to have aquatic therapy. So that's basically the scope of the project. And if necessary, I actually have some photos of the area that we're talking about.
Thank you.
All right, anyone have any questions? Mr. Joyce?
I want to, did you consider putting it to the side of the deck behind your house?
Either way, whether it was to the side or where it's going, it would still be, within, I'd still need to have a variance. I did not, because I would prefer to have it off the back of the deck. But that being said, even if it were to the side of the deck, the vegetation from those trees would probably make a fairly nasty mess, and you'd have to clean them out quite often. So, removal of the trees, and Nick, currently the wood, there's a couple of trees there that, if you notice, that look pretty dead, and they're already a dangerous impact to the home itself. At some point very soon would have to be removed anyway.
This is the lot.
Yeah, I see it.
And then,
I saw that.
Also, if I can just
Yes,
add
please.
one point of information, the septic area is on the side of the house there,
It's huge.
and that might be a limiting factor on putting a pool on that side.
No, I was looking at the other side.
Oh,
On the
on the other
septic
side.
side.
By the driveway?
Yeah, that's the lich field is right there. You'd be basically putting it on top of the lich field. And I think it would be a negative impact to the homes that surround me, because it wouldn't be in the back of the house anymore. It'd be out in the front where people could visually see it.
Do you own a pool? Have you ever owned a pool before?
First time in my life, ma'am.
Okay. I own a pool,
Mm-hmm.
and Vivian owns a pool, I know. I don't know anybody else who might. But there's other things other than just putting water in a pool and then taking it out at the end of the year.
Yes.
You have backwashing that goes on.
Yep.
That definitely spills water out into some area. And I understand what Mr. Neiman said. I wish I could ask him if he has had a pool, because I can't imagine every time you backwash out of the pool
Mhm.
that you're going to call the drainage services to be there to collect the water that's going to drain out of the pool.
Correct. That's why the idea is to use Bacquasil in place of chlorine. When diluted, from what I understand, it has no impact on drainage water, and that's we've considered that.
That's that soft water?
Yes.
Okay, because we had that once. I have had that before. It's a non-chlorine based
Yes.
pool additive. I don't know, to be honest with you, whether or not it does impact anything adversely biologically. I don't know the answer to that question. My concern is that you are going to have to backwash your pool, and
There'll also be a mulch berm that will be put in as well. That should provide, I would think, adequate natural filtration of any water that would wash into that area as well.
I would assume that none of that was discussed with Mr. Neiman when he was at your home the other day?
Somebody had asked me about it. I know that somebody had made, yes, Mr. Neiman came to my house today,
Right.
and I spoke to him. He was supposed to come to the house on Sunday, and I spoke to him last evening, and it did come up, yeah, when we spoke. He asked me about, obviously, in the wintertime, you have to drain the pool down below the skimmer, and all of those things. So, and also, I also leave it to you folks, if anybody knows of, has suggestions for me as well as how to, improve or lessen the impact that they know of as well. I would be more than willing to listen and abide by whatever this board would suggest.
You said that I thought you said when you did your presentation that you were cutting down the trees behind it. And then when I mentioned about possibly putting it on the other side of the porch, you said that the trees would be impacting it.
I didn't, I misunderstood you. You meant on the other side, meaning the side of the home.
I mean, where the porch is.
To the right,
And-
when you're looking at,
You're saying still on the backside of the house?
Backside of the house, to
But-
the right of the porch, instead of behind the porch.
Towards the garage?
Towards the
side.
garage.
yeah, I
right.
think when you look at the photographs, the area looks larger in the photographs than what it really is. If you were to put the pool to the right of the deck, the trees would be still very close to that area, and you would need to clean the pool quite often to remove the leaves and such from the trees.
Is the point you're trying to make is that you would not be impacting the 50-foot, the inner 50-foot if you were to move it?
Right.
Would that be true? Did you try to measure it on that side of the deck to determine if that location of the same size pool in the position that Ms. Hooton is indicating, would that be impacting the inner 50-foot?
I think it still would. I'd be guessing, but I think that it still would be, yes.
Mr. Chair, I do believe there are rules and regulations as to how far away a pool must be from the house, and I'm not sure what the regulation is, but I know that there's some distance that you have to
Yeah, it'd be right
be
on
away
it,
from.
that spot, yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say, after taking a drive-by look at the property today, I think is it Dubois or Dubois?
Du Bois is fine.
Dubois, after looking at it, pretty much it's characteristic of all the houses on that street, what Mr. Neiman observed in his email, that they were set very close to the original 50-foot buffer before that 100-foot overlay came in, and it doesn't appear from what I saw that there's too many other practical locations for it. Could I ask Mr. Dubois, how far from the surface water that we're talking about would the pool actually be located? We're talking about going into the buffer, but how much further downslope
I
is
would
the
only,
actual surface water?
I could only guess, but my guess is that the pool would be probably between 25 and 30 feet at least away from surface water.
That surface water area is being back well into the tree line?
Yeah, it's in the tree line that you saw in the photos is in dry land. So the surface water is beyond that berm. And during the wet season, which is still pretty wet back there right now, the water tends to move out away from the house as opposed to come up towards it.
So if the application is correct, hopefully it's no closer than 42 feet, right? Because in the 50-foot, from the last time it was measured, it was, the 50-foot boundary is 50-foot boundary from the edge of the
water.
of the surface
Oh, okay.
water.
So it, again, I never measured, so I would guess that that's probably correct.
Is this a in-ground pool,
No, above ground,
above-ground pool?
yes.
With the provisions to be able to close it off when you're not using it?
Meaning,
Fencing, or the ladder goes up into the,
yes, yes, definitely.
do we have to have a fence around an above-ground pool? I know the in-ground you do.
I believe it's a 48-foot rule if the wall of the pool is
Yes.
48 48 inches, sorry, not 48 foot. If the wall of the pool is 48 inches tall, then you don't have to have a separate fence.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I knew in-ground you did that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
tall
it's,
is the pool?
right here is the swimming pool barrier requirements, if you'd like to look.
The barrier
at it.
here.
Yep.
Okay, I got it.
How tall is the pool?
Pardon me?
How tall is the pool?
The pool will be 52 inches high.
So, and just like the last application, you're asking for a variance, and the variance criteria has 5 questions. The first being that it's not contrary to the public interest, and you provided an answer. That the spirit of the ordinance is observed, and you provided an answer. That it would do substantial justice, property values would not be diminished, and that there is a hardship if it were not to be granted. Looking at the zoning ordinance, page 81, which is paragraph 13.3, Wetland and Surface Water Conservation District, the purpose of the district is to protect and regulate the use of wetlands and surface waters in the town of Goffstown in the interest of the public health and welfare. And then it goes on for 8 specific further items. Are you telling me that encroaching 8 feet into the inner 50 feet when there's already a 100-foot boundary, that you are still protecting the wetlands and surface waters?
Yes,
And that it's in accordance with public health and welfare?
I believe so, yes.
And the substantial justice, if we were to not do it, how would you be harmed?
Well, I mean, my family would be without a pool that they can enjoy for certain. My son would go without aquatic therapy at home for certain. And the value of my property, I mean, when you consider the situation that I'm in, you have a 100-foot surface water boundary literally running straight through my yard, with the 50-foot buffer in the back. My property value would be crushed. If anybody was to look at my property in a thought when my kids are grown and it's time for me to move on, to buy my property and realize that they really can't do anything with their backyard, it would be a major impact on that, I believe. So those would be the hardships that I would list.
Do your neighbors have pools?
Yes. Yep.
Do they have, from your opinion, because you probably haven't measured it out, do they have things that are in their backyards that are likely encroaching or close to the boundaries as well?
I couldn't speak to that,
Okay.
to be honest with you. And I have to be plainly honest. But my neighbors have pools. I've spoke to my neighbors about this. Some of them asked if I needed them to come. I didn't. Probably should have had some come to speak on my behalf. But a lot of the neighbors have pools. I don't know if they're encroaching on anything. I know a lot of my neighbors are in the same situation where I am, where there is a lot of water running down that hill and through the neighborhood, and so I wouldn't know personally, though, if they're within any type of a boundary or anything like that.
Okay. And then you spoke to the hardship. Anyone have any further questions for Mr. Boyce?
When was the, Brian, I have a quick, when was the 50-foot setback, wetland setback put in, do you know?
2000.
Yes, it was
A couple of years.
1993 to 2003.
2008 is when the surface water was added.
And you bought your house in 2004?
Yes.
So you knew that there was a 50-foot setback?
To be 100% honest with you, I did not. And that's my fault, no question about it. Kind of a live and learn type of thing, where you buy a home and you don't realize that there's a 50-foot. To be honest with you, when I looked at that property without a foundation on it, it was in the middle of summer when there was leaves on the trees, and I didn't even know that there was water back there. And that's, I'm speaking 100% completely honest with you. It's a beautiful home. It's a nice piece of property. It's a great neighborhood. And it's one of those coulda, shoulda, wouldas. I love everything else about it. And you know, at this point here, I'm just trying to put something there for recreation so that my kids will want to be home, bring their friends home, and be able to enjoy my home with my family, which I think I, you know, definitely would like to do, so.
So you said you bought the house in 2004, but this property was subdivided between 1993 and 2003, I believe, because the property, according to her front sheet, said 2000. And on page 82 of the zoning ordinance, it speaks to paragraph 13.3.3.1, properties created before March 9, 1993 had wetlands that were larger than 2,000 square feet, the 50-foot buffer applied. Then the next jump was in 2003, when it became 100 feet. So your property was inside those two windows. That's why the 50-foot applied. But then paragraph 13.3.3.4, this is what Brian spoke to. The district includes those areas within 100 feet of all surface waters within the town of Goffstown. And that's where your property got swallowed up
Yeah.
by the 100-foot.
Yeah.
So that's where the 50-foot, 100-foot comes.
So even if he only needed to meet the 50 at this point, it doesn't matter, because now he has to meet the full
Right.
100. I was trying to find something in here, but I can't find it. There is something where the zoning board can allow for handicapped access, a sort of a relaxation of the rules. I can't remember what it's called, and I'm wondering if something like that would also apply to allowing someone to put something in for handicapped use. I can't remember.
I
what
think
it's
I
called.
remember reading that.
I would
remember
think,
reading
I
that.
mean, I would think so, but I think you would have to then, they would have to be certified handicapped, you know what I'm saying? And I get what you're saying, but you would.
I don't think that was in the zoning ordinance. I think that's an RSA.
It
Yeah.
is, and I just can't
Yeah.
find it because I can't remember what it's called.
We've used it before, or we've looked at it before. I'm
Yeah.
not sure we actually had to use it.
What
Um,
size is this pool?
15 feet by 30. And the 15-foot, obviously, is gonna be the width head down, going into the,
And how many feet into the buffer are you?
6 to 8. And we're being conservative.
30 feet is a big pool. A
This way.
long way, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just, if I may, I mean, just an observation, and looking at the delineation of the 100-foot surface water here, I think Mr. Neiman made the observation, which is probably true. I think that one of the things that you suffer from here is very poor placement of the building envelope in relation to the way the lot is laid out. I'm presuming, Mr. DuBois, that this whole back piece here that goes down beyond, this is all indeed part of your lot here, at least as it's delineated?
What, the entire, what are we talking about? The
Well,
lot
well-
31 here would be my lot as it's.
Which is lot 31, which continues all the way back
Yes, yep,
there. So you have a substantial portion of the lot that's in the wetlands
Yes.
there.
yes.
Practically the whole lot.
Yeah.
You've got, essentially, when you look at my tax certificate, I think that it will delineate that there's 1.7 acre lot, and I think 0.7 acres is uncleared and probably in that wetland area, and I could be wrong. Or it might be backwards. It might be 0.7 acres is cleared
Yeah.
and 1 acre full is not cleared, and most of that would be back there in the wetland area.
But because of the way the building is placed in close proximity to this
Yeah,
front line here
Yeah.
is one of the reasons that we're running into
yes.
the situation that we are.
Right, right. If the structure was moved, say, 10 feet towards the street,
You'd be better
we'd be
off.
fine. Yeah, and these are things that, again, you live and learn. You don't think about those when you're building a house. You think that you're going to have plenty of room in your backyard to be able to put a pool off your deck, and it's something that, if I was to do it over again, I'd be paying a much closer attention to those types of things, for sure.
When you bought the house, were you under the possibility that you'd be able to go even further back into the woods, cut down some of those
Oh,
woods?
heck no. Once I moved into the home, I never thought I'd be clearing mass amounts of land at all. I'm not looking for a huge yard. I'm just looking to be able to put the pool in, and never really realized that I'd be running into an issue with just putting a pool in. So it's not, I have no desire to have, a lot of acreage of land. My main reason for moving, first off, I'm a native of Goffstown. I've lived here for a lot of years of my life. I grew up here. I went to Maple Ave School, graduated from Goffstown High School in '91. When I first was married, I moved away for a little while, and then my wife, I travel much for work, so my wife wanted to be closer to family. We wanted to move back to Goffstown. We were living in more of a landlocked subdivision in Manchester, so we wanted more land, not so much that we wanted this big lot to take care of, but we wanted a little bit more separation from our neighbors and a little bit more elbow room and maybe some woods around us so that you didn't have to look right at the house next to you. But there was never, you know, I was never thinking that I wanted to have these huge sprawling fields that I'd have to mow and be able to cut down all these trees. I just wanted to be able to have a home with a garage and be able to hopefully someday put a pool in for my kids, and that's why we're here today, to just get that accomplished.
What would you do around the pool to protect the kids from running into the wetlands?
That's an interesting question.
I think kids can go
Go in,
into
can
the
the
wetlands.
kids-
Yeah, I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
that there's
Go in and
really,
play.
I don't
Now
know
that I
that
think
there's,
about the question, I'm going
I
like, well,
don't,
wait a minute.
yeah, I don't
you
know
how
that
are they
there's
gonna get the
really
frogs?
anything to really stop them from going in.
Yeah.
Required.
And
I
you
mean,
know,
believe
yeah.
me, Dad doesn't like them to be playing in the wetlands anyway. It usually brings back quite a bit of mud, so,
Or
Mosquitoes.
poison ivy.
yeah, but there, yeah,
Fair
poison
question.
ivy for sure. I'm usually fighting that every summer, so, but they occasionally wander back there. Certainly going to do my best to explain to them that when you're swimming in the pool, please do not go into the wetlands, and it goes twofold, let alone getting chemical into the water. Certainly don't want them bringing wetland goop back into the swimming pool, so.
So your position is the size of the pool is necessary, the location of the pool is really there, it's the only reasonable position
Yes.
of the pool.
Yes.
And that you're taking in consideration and trying to minimize impact to the wetlands and the surface water.
Main reason why we're going with an oval. I mean, it would be very easy for me to go with a round pool and save a whole boatload of money because oval pools are significantly more expensive. Even if I downsize the pool, it's coming this way. It's not changing this way. So it's always going to be 15 feet wide, and that's the reason why we adopted to go with an oval pool, to have as minimal impact on that buffer as we possibly could.
I believe Soft Swim is a peroxide-based pool chemical. Am I incorrect
I
on it?
have, you may be right. There's a couple
am.
products. There's Soft Swim and there's a product called Baquacil. And Baquacil, I know, is a hydrogen peroxide-based product.
Okay. Any last questions for Mr. Du Bois? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone here else that's speaking on behalf of the applicant? Anyone here speaking against this application? Any abutters, interested parties? All right, any last questions of the application, of the applicant, excuse me, before we close the public hearing? Do we need any more information
I
from
just
the?
have
co-
one,
Yep.
I do have a question. On your, is this your septic system that's over here on,
To the left of
to the left of the house?
Yes.
That looks like it's a very sophisticated septic system. It comes out, that accommodates a four-bedroom. Could back flushing possibly go through that system, or would it tax it?
I
do you know?
never, you know what, I never considered it, but my concern would be that it would attack the natural bacteria that's in the tank.
What kind of a system is that?
The septic system?
Yeah.
I could not tell you.
Oh, okay, oh, because it wasn't, okay.
It was installed by the builder. It wasn't something where I bought a piece of property and then acted as my own subcontractor. There was a builder that was in there, a developer that was doing the development. So we had some freedom as far as the structure was concerned, but for most of the systems, it was, what is in place, and I think everybody has what's in place. And I think that a lot of, obviously it's close to a wetland, there's moisture in the ground, so I think that they were, the system had to percolate properly, I think.
Gonna be raised.
Okay. We did receive, as we mentioned earlier, that we did receive an email from David Neiman, who was on the Conservation Commission. I imagine speaking on behalf of the Conservation Commission is how we're taking it. Is that how you accept it, Brian, as well, that this is the Conservation Commission's position?
It can't be considered an official Conservation Commission recommendation because they would have to have a quorum to make that recommendation. So this was our best effort at getting the ZBA some type of recommendation. So.
Okay.
But it says here that these are the comments from the Conservation Commission sidewalk.
You're saying that from the email, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what Patty's-
Typically, on a Conservation Commission site walk, any number of members can attend.
Right.
If less than 3 members attend, or less than
That's correct.
4, I believe, then it's not a quorum. And any comments that come out of that meeting are typically sent to the commission for a formal recommendation, and those comments then come to the ZBA. In this case, we felt it important to try to get something to the ZBA because we're already getting into the summer months and didn't want to impact this property owner more than necessary if it was possible for the ZBA to make a decision tonight. The recommendation from the Conservation Commission is just what it is. It's a recommendation, and it's not necessarily a requirement per se, but we felt that, you know, we would try to get as much information to the ZBA as possible tonight and let you make a decision based on that.
So their intent was for us to make a decision tonight?
I can't say that, but
Conservation
I
Commission
think,
can
I
only-
think some of the members at least tried to, you know, they made a special attempt at discussing this. They set up a meeting for Sunday. They had expected several members to be there, and it was not attended well at all. In fact, no one showed up. But due to that, they rescheduled a quick quick visit, and David Neiman was the only one who was able to go out on that second scheduling. But it looks like they attempted to do their best to get the ZBA some comments prior to this meeting in order to help the ZBA make a decision on this. But again, I can't say that it's an official recommendation from the ZBA just because they weren't all there to make a vote on it.
So if I read from the zoning ordinance, section 15.3.7.6, which is referenced in your comments, it says, report from the Conservation Commission. The zoning board shall deliver to the Conservation Commission a copy of any application relating to a variance request concerning wetland setbacks for the Conservation Commission's review and comment, which we've done. Except in extraordinary circumstances requiring immediate action, the zoning board shall make no substantive decisions on the application until at least 30 days thereafter. Has the Conservation Commission had 30 days to act upon this application?
No.
They have not.
The reason that I asked the question,
Can I finish just
you
one more
want to
sentence?
finish reading that?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
The Conservation Commission may submit a report or an advisory opinion to the ZBA and may present testimony at the public hearing on any application before the ZBA. Okay.
Okay, the reason that I asked the question, if it was the Conservation Commission's intention for the ZBA to make a decision tonight, I was doing the Conservation Commission minutes today, and that did not come across. It actually came across that they were going to try to get a meeting in soon, or get a site walk in soon, which they obviously did today, but they would still have to go back and discuss it so that the applicant could go to the Conservation Commission meeting in May, and then it would come back here for June. That was the intent of what I got from doing the minutes.
That seems like excessive.
I don't think so. I
Or-
don't think so.
Well-
First of all, we don't even have a 5-day window on material that we received. Even if they scheduled to go make a site walk on Sunday, which was this Sunday, and there were supposed to be 3 people there, we still were going to get our information within 24, 48 hours of the meeting. And then we get this today, and I think one of the questions I would have liked to have asked David again is, did you ever own a pool? Because I think that there's more to than just filling a pool and emptying a pool.
But when did the Conservation Commission get this?
The end of April. The meeting would have been,
Yeah, that was the April
No.
27th meeting.
yeah.
Well, according to the application was filed on the 15th of April, so it wasn't before the 15th.
No, it was, well, the Conservation Commission may have gotten it before the 27th, somewhere between the 15th and 27th, but they discussed it on the 27th. They planned the site walk. They missed it on Sunday. David went out today. But in the minutes, as I was doing them, the intent that was relayed was that they would hope that we would actually continue till June so that they would have a chance to meet, discuss the comments that David had, or whoever did the site walk had. And
But he doesn't have any comments.
I just assume continue it because I really think that that's the way the process should go. I don't think that, we have heard from the Conservation Commission.
I just would like to say that Conservation Commission is an advisory board, period. And I could see if it was a structure, this is a structure, but I could see if it was a shed or whatever,
Or an in-ground pool.
or an in-ground pool. I think David Neiman has got he's clarified it, and for Conservation to ask for June, the June meeting, which is when? June
Oh, you
what?
said May
no,
meeting.
the Conservation Commission would see him again in May, and we would address it and decide in June.
And that's why I said that seems excessive
No.
Yeah.
for an above-ground pool.
That
That-
said, they were sympathetic and very understanding that, waiting until June, the pool should be in by then. And so they were very aware of the timeframes and things like that as well.
Our
That-
next meeting is June 7th.
Right, that's why I'm saying it's excessive, because David says here that he doesn't have any problem with it. I
Right.
could see if he had a problem or whatever, but I think we should move ahead. Just taking it, I understand the process and I respect the Conservation Commission, but I don't see any issue with this.
I also understand where Conservation Commission has allowed within the 50-foot buffer, and have allowed sheds, or have allowed different structures to go. So as far as I'm concerned, at their next meeting, they would probably say, you know what, we don't have a problem. So we're making somebody wait 2 months or a month and a half.
But they're not going to be in their pool before Memorial Day, probably. I mean, none of us up here go in our pools before Memorial Day. It's really too cold. And to put in a above-ground pool, it only takes really a couple of days for them to build it. They're not doing, digging in. So are we really that far off if we continue it for 7 days into June? Is he really losing that amount of pool time this summer? I would have to say no, and if he was concerned about that, then maybe April 15th wasn't the date he should have looked at if this was an idea that he had when he bought the house that he wanted to put a pool in, then maybe maybe some of the work should have been done before the beginning of spring. Maybe he should have been in here January and February with the request. I mean, if I was in July and he's in August and he's looking at it, I might say to you, yeah, that might be, you're cutting into his pool summertime. But I don't see that right now. I really don't.
I disagree.
That's
To have to come to the town to wait 2 months to get approval for an above-ground pool is ludicrous, as far as I'm concerned.
What I'm concerned, and I understand what you're saying, but what I'm concerned about is I really am concerned about the chemicals, and I think I've asked very, very consistently. There is peroxide, these are both peroxide-based chemicals that he's talking about, the soft swim and the bio, what he's talking about. as well as there's, of course, always the chlorine. And we are in a wetlands buffer, and I am not, we do have restrictions, and the 50-foot buffer restriction's been here since before the house was built, I think, within the time frame of it. So I'm a little concerned at the chemical, the backwashing that's going to go in there. I don't see anything that says it's not gonna go in there, and if I don't see any drainage plan that says it's not gonna go into the wetlands and impact them, and I'm talking the 50-foot buffer, I'm not talking the 100-foot, I'm talking the 50-foot. I don't see proof that says to me that they are protected in the best manner possible.
Well, I'm going to concur with Kathy for a couple of reasons. One, that it is within the 50-foot buffer. We need to consider it because it's going to impact future applications, similar instance. And the fact that it's not an extraordinary circumstance in this case, except in extraordinary circumstances requiring immediate action. The zoning board shall make no substantive decisions, and arguing whether or not this is a substantive decision, but on the application until at least 30 days thereafter. So I think between the five of us, I think there's a majority that would prefer to keep this application open. Am I right?
Because
One of the
Vivian's
things-
voting.
Yeah, no, Vivian's,
All I'm saying is that
I take her as a two to move on. I sympathize.
I did get a letter from my pool guy and said that there's chemicals out there that's ecological, safe, or whatever, and that was his recommendation, and he also recommended lock gates and all that, but he's following what, Mother Nature says, so I don't know what he's talking about. I'm still using chlorine, but I have a place to put my water.
Now, I know none of us are wetland scientists or anything like that. The Conservation Commission does have a lot of expertise on the board, and they addressed in their meeting, they did address the chemicals and things that would get into the wetlands, or if they would. And their biggest concern was, like, at the end of the season when you drain the pool and things like that. And that's where I believe it was said that you would have a company come in and drain the pool. They weren't too concerned about the splashing of the water of kids playing or anything like that. They didn't have a concern there. Their concern was the draining at the end of the season, and that seems to have been taken care of.
And during the season, if we have violent rainstorms and thunderstorms that come through here, I mean, in the summer, I mean, we're pumping water out, we're draining water out of our pool because it's up at the top, and we have to lower it maybe 3 or 4 inches if we get a rainstorm. So that's not the end of the season drainage, that's within the season. And hopefully, there is a chemical out there that I think if the applicant brought more information with him to the Conservation Commission about which chemical he plans on using in the water, that is everything to his benefit, because it just will only substantiate the fact that he is not going to adversely impact the wetlands as to what the Conservation Commission would preferably have him not do.
Can I ask a question? Do you think that David Neiman would send an email to all the people on the Conservation Commission and expect that they would not agree? I mean, he sent to every one of them, and that's what he saw. Now, I mean, with them receiving this at 10:30 today, I'm sure that they would come back with something if they weren't in agreement. And nobody would say to David Neiman or any member of the Conservation that you can write this letter without informing the commission.
And
So I think this commission is on track.
I also think he knew it was of urgent nature, and
Yeah.
that's why he did it today. Otherwise, he could have waited until, a week before their next meeting, if there wasn't a need for us
Right.
to have this letter tonight. I think they realize that.
I hear you. Time is not an urgency of itself, though, just because the board is meeting today. There's nothing that the applicant is needing. It's not a life-saving thing. It's not, we're gonna save $10,000 by doing it now versus next month. I don't see that thing. I do believe that one member of the board can submit something without the consent of the other board members. Not saying that that's what happened here. But I'm most interested of the whole discussion the Conservation Commission's gonna have is, what are we looking at for a condition? You know, he's recommended something, I would recommend the variance be granted, but with the condition the water be drained, blah, blah, blah. You know, okay, is he gonna say what type of chemicals, what kind of liability does that have on the homeowner? Is it enforceable? I mean, you know, I hate just throwing conditions on things.
And that's another thing, like telling someone what kind of chemicals they could use.
I wanna hear from the Conservation Commission on it.
That's exactly my
That's
problem.
crazy.
By specifying what kind of chemicals somebody's gonna be using in their pool, are we getting beyond our ken as a land use
I think
board?
so.
We're really talking about, I think those are certainly town health officer, conservation commissioner, or other appropriate regulatory boards that have to deal with those things. I think we've got to look at the land use impact of it and not be getting into elaborate conditions about what kind of chemicals you can use in the pool.
And I still say, if David Neiman was doing this on his own, he would not have sent everybody an email
Right.
saying, this is what I'm sending to the,
And I think those of us who've known David, known David for quite some time. He's very conservative in the way that he does things, and I don't think that he would make a recommendation like that. I've seen other instances where he's, been vehemently opposed to things, and
Oh,
if
yeah.
he says he doesn't have a problem with it, I tend to put, a fair amount of faith and credence in that.
I make a motion that we leave this application, or leave the public hearing open to hear what the Conservation Commission finds and comes to us with from their next Conservation Commission meeting, hopefully in May.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Noes or abstentions?
No.
No.
No. Okay. All right.
I make a motion to grant the variance.
The public hearing is still open.
Oh, sorry.
So.
Why did we vote to?
Well, it was just to continue it to the next meeting
Oh,
is what I
okay.
was doing. I didn't add that one sentence, but, okay, I guess that's everybody okay with, closing the public hearing? Is that the, consensus
Were
then?
Were there any public for it?
What's that?
No.
Is
No.
there anyone out there?
no.
Oh,
Yeah, I already, went
okay.
around.
Now
So-
can I go?
You're good with closing the public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was trying to keep it open, now usually the opposite happens when you say, oh, I want to close it now. When I said I want to keep it open. So, with that, we will close the public hearing. And is there any motions or further discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance with the condition that when the pool is drained, the water not be directed towards the wetland, drainage of the water.
Okay,
Second.
discussion? All right, the motion is to approve the variance with one condition as defined by Joanne. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those who vote no?
No,
No abstentions. All right, 4-1. Okay, that's it.
All set? So does that
Got
get mailed to my home, does it? No, yes?
Brian?
We'll mail you a notice of decision. Yep,
Perfect, and then I come back and get my permit then.
exactly.
Well, thank you so much for hearing my case today.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your help, Brian, I appreciate it.
I'll just give you
Okay.
there's a 30-day period of time that is.
Okay, so we have one more application. And with this one, I think I'm gonna let Vivian be the voting alternate on this one as well. Lynn, is that all right? Guy Clark, applicant, is seeking a variance to allow the construction of an 8-foot by 16-foot shed The variance is required because the proposed shed will be set back approximately 2 feet 6 inches from the rear property line, whereas section 4.3 of the zoning ordinance requires a rear yard setback of 25 feet. The property is owned by Frank Piacentini, that's not right, and is located at 5 Pinar Street, which is map 15 lot 207 in the commercial district. Before we hear the application, we need to determine if it has regional impact. Brian has made it, done a review and recommends that it does not have regional impact. Any motions on that aspect?
I'll make a motion to find there's no regional impact.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Noes? All right, it's 5-0. Okay, Brian has a few items on here for staff review. The proposed shed has already been built by the applicant. The proposed shed is replacing a previously existing shed that was taken down a few years ago. The zoning ordinance states that all structures to replace non-conforming structures shall conform to the ordinance unless destroyed by fire or other casualty. The proposed shed is located 6 inches farther away from the property line. The lot is only 4,791 square feet, which makes it a non-conforming lot because the minimum lot size is 5,000 square feet. This is a smaller lot than typically allowed in the commercial zoning district, giving less available space to build accessory dwellings, or buildings, excuse me. And is the applicant here? Please come forward, state your name. And what are you asking us to do?
Name's Guy Clark, 5 Penard Street. What I'm asking you to do is give me a variance putting my shed up. It's attached to my garage, which there was a shed there at one time. There's a cement slab that's been there. Of course, it's not gonna get any more permanent than that. I mean, that was something that was there when I rented the place. So, figured I'd replace the shed, where there was 2 doors at the side of the garage that went into the previous shed that was there. It was back, brought it up again. So I went and put the shed up, not knowing that I needed a permit to do that.
Did you take down the old shed yourself?
No, I did not.
As a previous
It
homeowner?
was just bits and pieces out on the back on a slab, and that was it. It looked like lally columns and stuff like that that was in the concrete at one time.
Okay. Lynn?
I mean, how long have you been in the property, and was the shed standing when you moved in?
I've been there,
How long has it been down, I guess, in that kind of?
well, it's been down for at least 11 years. That's how long I've been there.
All right, so there was not a shed standing when you moved in?
Just
did
bits
you?
and pieces off the garage where the doors were open that went into the shed. So I just took the rest of it down, got rid of it, and boarded the walls back up. Because they were on hinges.
Did you say there was a concrete slab under this shed?
Yes, there is. And it's 10 by 18 to be where the slab is. And I went out and left 2 feet off the slab widthwise and 2 feet lengthwise.
Was the slab there originally, or did you put that in now?
That was originally there.
So the slab is an existing,
Yes, it is, ma'am. Building is put up to specs, 16 centers, 2x4, no electricity, no plumbing, 2-pitch roof. And when I got the card in the mail about, don't do any more, I haven't put the roof on. It was gonna be metal, and I'm gonna vinyl side it to make a better appearance than what was on the side of the garage to begin with.
Brian, could we be missing a page 4 from the application? I know my package, I believe, is. Does anybody else have a page 4?
no.
Page
Oh,
4.
sometimes they don't
Yeah, I
include
do.
the page. Oh, you have it?
Oh, wait a minute, not that one.
Page 4 is not filled out in the actual application.
Oh, so there's
Yeah.
only the first 3.
Page 4 is a request for special exception.
Okay, because
because you can see.
Okay,
that-
let me say page 3. Do you have a page 3 in your application?
Yes, I do.
And it's completed? Okay, does
With
everybody else have page 3?
numbers 4 and 5, A
I don't have
and
it,
B.
I don't have a page 3 either.
And mine goes from 2 to 5 as well.
No, I didn't notice that. I was looking through the package.
Would you like me to run up and make some quick photocopies?
Yes, please.
Can I ask a question? Did the building inspector go check this shed?
I believe he did, Miss.
Mr. Tessier?
Yes, Mark Tessier, I guess he
Did
did
he?
through the fence,
Did he?
and that's all I
Yeah,
know.
I got the letter for the zoning.
No, Mark Tessier, building inspector. April 1st, 2011. Should be in the back of your packet.
Yeah, the one that says that he needs to go to the zoning, is that the one you're talking about? April 1st, 2011? All right, okay. If Mr. Tessier was to go there and look at this shed, would he see an old concrete slab?
Yes, he would. It's approximately 10 inches thick.
So if I understand the situation, what you had when you moved in was an old slab with pieces of an old shed on top of it, which
Right.
you subsequently
Just
removed.
took it out.
When you put up the new shed, how are you attaching that? Are you using the columns or whatever that were in the slab? Do you have to drill into the slab to?
No, sir. What I did is I put the ledger on the garage at 16 feet, okay? And I built the 2x4 walls. There's 3 walls, of course, and the other one's the garage wall where the 2 doors were there in the opening, okay, just to cover that. Okay, so I got 4 feet on the existing garage that's still exposed. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I have to walk 4 feet out around and into the garage, into the shed.
But to get your base plate into the garage, you've just got like, what, 2x4s nail gunned into the
Yeah, I
slab?
nail gunned it all right in, yep.
So, and you're on
that I
commercial,
can't-
you're on commercial property?
I
Are
mean,
you on commercial property, or?
yeah, I believe so.
And the properties surrounding, I have to look at the
I
map.
think it says residential.
Huh?
I'm sorry.
I mean, if you go around the block and look, you see sheds that's up and they're against the fences of butters and everything else. And so I just said, well,
Are you asking for any other building other than on that slab?
nothing.
Did your side walls extend over the slab?
No.
All right. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant?
I'm just trying to figure out, it's in the back of his house, you said?
Yes.
Again, if you look at it, if you're looking at
I'm looking at all
that
these,
property card picture with the basketball hoop on the front of the garage,
yeah, I went by there, but
it's
I
on the
didn't-
left, as I'm looking down your driveway, the basketball hoop is gonna be on the left-hand side of the garage.
Yes, it is.
Behind the building itself where it doesn't.
On the side,
show
yes,
from the
behind my,
street.
It's already
right.
there.
Right. but what-
And
The only place that it can
Why
be
they-
seen is across the other side.
Well, they want
Okay, you have,
And
It's not within
I'm
the
looking-
setback.
you'd probably like
Because
right there,
the old shed was
straight
down
behind
for
the
11
building.
years.
and how close is he to the property line,
It's like
2
nothing was
feet?
there. It's not like he was replacing something.
I'm 2 feet 6 inches from the back of the property line, which is 6 inches in above what the garage is now, from the pole on the back side.
Do you know how far off the back property line the slab is?
It's right to the line.
So like a 0 setback from the
Right, no
line.
setback out, no, it goes right to the line. And I held it back in. And I got 15 feet 6 inches from the outside wall to the property line to the outside of the fence.
A couple of people here have been asking why you have to come to us, and it's basically in the application, a couple pages from the back, in a letter from Derek to the building inspector and Brian Rose talking about, the fact that it's a replacement of a non-conforming structure. There's an issue with the rear yard setback, and then the fact of construction without building permit were things that were identified by the code enforcement officer at the time.
Yes, sir.
And so those are the things that, you know, what we're being asked to specifically do here is the fact that it is to construct it. It's not gonna be conforming. There was once a shed there, but they removed it. There's things in the zoning ordinance that talk about if it was taken out by winds and fires and destruction, that you could replace it. But in this case, it was at some point chosen, taken down, it wasn't rebuilt. You basically give up the right to have it there, is what it really comes down to when you do that. And now, it's as if it's a new application, that you have to come in and asking for that building to be put within the setback area.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, Joey.
What is this little thing in the back of the house here? It says that it's
Utility storage
utility
area.
storage, and it's about, the gross area is 16 square feet. But the, what does that stand for, effective area?
That's at the
It's
back side of the
6.
house?
It's on the very back of the house.
Did I see it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
There's the floor plan of the house. This is the front of the house. It's the same
I
jump.
can't see the back of the house, can you?
Something that's not part of the structure.
It's on the
Little thing,
drawing.
It's like a mud
Oh, it-
room kind of thing?
Was that the
I
old
think that
shed?
goes that way.
What?
Was that the old shed?
This here is the,
We'll let him describe it.
what's this basement crow? What's
Well,
this stand for
BA.
here?
UST?
Utility something
Undeveloped, huh?
storage.
First floor.
Yeah, okay.
Is there a mud room or an entrance there?
Pardon me?
Is there a mud room or an entrance at that spot?
Porch or something?
Is there
All there
a,
is just my thing that goes in the house, that's in the back.
yeah,
In the back, is there a roof over it where you walk in, or?
There is a half roof there, yes. It's, well, you know, it's, I don't know what you'd
Just
call
like-
it.
Awning, canopy, or?
There's a
Like a-
canopy out in the front. It goes
No,
the whole length.
in the back, is there like a roof, I mean, can't think of what I'm looking for, a porch?
Yeah, just a deck thing, you know, that you walk up on, and you have a cover there that's probably about that size right there,
Okay,
yes.
that
yes.
must be what
Yes,
that
is.
That must be the,
Okay.
the top, yeah.
That's got nothing to do with the shed, though.
No, nothing.
looking
Just this little thing here, I thought that might be the old shed.
where it says UST.
Yeah, it's utility storage unfinished.
The shed was attached to the garage. It was very large. It's much larger than what we're talking about here right now in this drawing.
Would,
Previous applications, as you heard, you were seeking a variance which requires the answering of 5 questions, which you answer here. That it's not contrary to the public interest, and you're speaking to the fact that you're gonna store in it lawnmowers, four-wheelers, tools. It's not a eyesore. The spirit of the ordinance is observed, that there was an old shed. You're basically building back on the concrete slab that was there, that it does substantial justice, because it dresses up the property, that it doesn't, you make the claim that it does not diminish the property values, and that the hardship you're claiming is that the shed, it hasn't been there for some time, and it looks different for the, it'll look better, and that the use is reasonable. So, to sum it up, without the shed, what would you be doing?
Well, I was in a storage unit, you know, $65 a month for 2 years. I could have bought, you know, this here cost me $300 to put together, you know. So, you know, I was just losing money.
Do your neighbors, abutting property owners have similar storage sheds closest to property lines?
Up around the back of me, they have, geez, they have garages right there next to Mass Road Lumber, right there next to his. I mean, it's probably got 10 feet in there, not even. Okay, then you got, you go out in the back of the houses, and there's a shed out there, there's a shed next to this one, and, you know, we're talking 3-4 feet from any of butters.
And we're back
But-
in Penardville again, just like the
Yes.
first application, and things are pretty cozy where they're
Oh, yes,
close together.
yes.
Can I ask Brian a question?
Yeah.
How much of that property on Penard Street and, what's that other street? Not Rochambeau, but anyway. Gloria is commercial.
We
own
commercial.
They're all commercial, that's what I'm wondering.
It doesn't follow commercial all the way along Laurier.
What's that other street, is it Henriette Street? No,
It's about a 300.
The Vagnon, the other one that goes around, is that,
the little, this, right off Mass Road, it's right by the vet. What's this?
I can't think of.
What's that
Yeah.
street?
It's kind of a strip that follows Mast Road,
Yeah,
and then it gets you know, it probably takes in five lots there along Laurier Street, and then it cuts off at an angle on the last one.
where the dentist used to be, what's the name of that street? Huh?
He's,
Catchudal, yeah, but I mean, that's not the name of the street, though.
I'm not
And you
sure.
can, well, you can see the,
Davignon or something?
Huh?
Davignon, something like that.
Davignon.
Davignon?
That's the one that goes up this way, I think.
All right.
Then it cuts back to that one on that side, and I can't think of the name of the street.
I know Davignon Street is, it comes out on Penard Street.
Right.
and just like Brian was trying to point out, you do have a map in the back of your zoning ordinance here that has, it's a
Yeah.
foldout.
We get the new one? Oh,
Yep.
okay. I
And
thought I was
so
gonna have to put,
The pink on the very bottom right is, you know, you gotta figure out exactly which one of those turns onto Kelly Street, but, that's what we're speaking about. There is, it's a strip, as Brian talked about. It affects a number of properties.
I was just wondering if his property in the back of him was commercial.
It looks to be commercial
Yes.
from here.
The property in the rear is definitely commercial.
Okay, so, and it's, so if anything was to happen to any of those homes in the commercial district, they could not be replaced if it was burnt down, because it's a residential and a commercial.
No, there's an allowance for
There is an allowance?
residential in the commercial
Within a
district.
year, I think.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
still
I think it's
maintain the
within a
zoning
year.
ordinance provisions that if you rebuild and,
And it's residential and a,
yeah, I don't think it defines the type of,
so it's changed them, because I always thought if a residential was in a commercial area, and, you know, some mishap happened to the house, that they were not going to be allowed to build it if it was a total loss. I'm just trying to,
So if there was a total loss there on the garage, I couldn't replace it there, or could I?
I don't know.
No.
I don't
I think
know.
you
We would
can
look at
within a
that,
year.
Yeah.
they would talk with Brian, I'm
What I'm
sure, to
trying,
cover that.
what I'm trying to say is that if it's commercial property and there's residential, are we following, we're following residential guidelines and not commercial guidelines because it's on commercial property? You know what I'm saying? So what?
Well, it's,
help me out here.
that's not what's before us right now.
The
Yes, it is.
The accessory
Yes, it is.
structure guideline rules for both commercial and,
So you're following both? I mean, there's residential and the commercial. Because there's residential and the commercial, we're following residential guidelines. Should we not be following commercial guidelines?
well, but what I'm saying is the accessory structure guidelines
Oh.
work for both.
It works for both,
Yeah,
okay.
they're the same for both.
They are the same.
If it's an accessory structure.
I get it.
then
I get it. Okay. Just,
I believe that's,
I see it here. I think if,
And if there is a fire, you can replace it within 1 year.
you get 25
Okay.
feet.
Within 1 year?
Yes.
And then if you do have a split zone piece of property,
you're right,
it's the zone that has the it's the most property in the zone within the parcel. So if you had more residential property than commercial, then the residential ordinances are effective.
Well, he said either way, like.
But he said
Brian
either
said.
way on the
Right,
accessories,
it's the
but
same
when you have a
distance.
split, it's the one that it follows
Yeah.
the
I
ordinances.
didn't see that. I
That was the
should
one
have
that was
seen
most
it, but I didn't.
restrictive.
Why, the
All
one
right.
on the- Whatever.
Okay,
Is that
so,
what we have here either?
Nope.
Is it?
No.
I was proving
I'm all
wrong,
set.
wrong ones.
Okay,
Vivian was right.
all set.
Now, I guess I have a question also. The gripe is that, that I've got it hooked to my garage. Is that the gripe? Or,
I don't believe so. I believe, as Brian presents it, it's because of the setback from the property line.
And because of the rule that you can't reconstruct something that's been taken down for more than a year.
okay,
You'd have to get approval to do that,
okay?
because it's within the setback. If it was, Brian, if it wasn't within the setback, he could have built it, and he wouldn't have had to come here. But because it's within the setback,
Correct.
he has to get the variance to do it.
All right, so if I was to go out and just buy a regular shed, 20 by 20, something that ain't hooked to the house, I can say it right in the backyard? Is that what you're saying?
No?
Why? It's
No.
not a permanent fixture. I can move it.
That's not what we have before us either. So the application that you have before us is.
Well, I
is
mean,
something you're putting on
it
us.
isn't a way, if I'm denied this, it isn't a way. I mean, I can cut that off my building and put another side on it, it's not attached to anything, and it's movable. I
Is
don't
there-
An
have to s-
accessory structure is an accessory structure whether it's attached or not.
Well, isn't one taxable and the other one isn't? Are they both taxable?
We're not gonna get into that,
Department.
we're
No,
not gonna get
department.
into that debate tonight. It's
That's
something
what-
that you would
that-
speak with Brian Rose
Yeah.
about,
All right,
not this
okay,
board.
okay.
So.
I will put out, he does pose a good question about whether or not he could put a shed just anywhere in his rear yard. And the size of his rear yard is probably such that that would be fairly restrictive. I'm not sure exactly how much room there is back in the backyard
Yes.
there, but.
It's a 25-foot setback, right, that he has to comply with?
Right, there's a, well, for an accessory structure, it gets cut down to 10
Okay.
feet.
All right.
So there would be 10 feet on each side that he's restricted to, and that being a very long and skinny lot, it's potentially gonna be a difficult location for him.
Okay.
So if he moves the shed 8.5 feet forward, and he's got the 10 feet setback, or does he have the property to do that?
I wouldn't,
Don't
what
believe
would
so.
be the distance between
Or 7.5?
your garage door is the front of the slab to the back door of your house?
Well, I couldn't get through there if I moved it down 8 feet. Couldn't get out in the back.
So there's, what,
And I mean, I'm-
maybe only like 10 or 20 feet between front of the garage
Well,
and the
you're
back of the
probably, you're
house?
probably talking 25 feet total from the back of the house to the back of the garage. Not even.
To the back of the garage, not to the front of the...
From the back of the house, from the back where I have a walkout, the walkout basement, okay? From there to the garage is 8 feet. So if I was to move that shed down 8 feet, I couldn't get out and into the back.
So there is no other place for you to put a shed on your property for the items that you have in storage right now?
There isn't, ma'am. There is not.
And if I'm
I
looking,
mean, I got rowboats and stuff that I had on the fence and everything, and, there's something that I just want to get out of the yard so it looks neat, put my grass back in, and let it go as that.
All right, anyone have any additional questions for Mr. Clark? Okay, thank you.
Good, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Anyone else here speaking on behalf of the applicant, in favor of the applicant? Anyone here, any abutters here to speak against the application?
Me.
Sir, please come forward.
My name is Daniel Cody, and I own the property on the side and in the back of his property. And I've been there since 1968, and it never was a shed there. That was a cattle thing for dogs. Never was a shed where he says there was one.
Okay,
And it's a sight of what we see when you come out of the house. His fence is probably 8 feet, like you said, it's 8 feet from my property line, where my door is to come outside of my door. And I think it's, there's enough stuff in that yard now, then I don't think there's any room for anything else.
so you're, So you're saying there was no shed there, that
There's never
you,
been a shed there since 1968, since I've been working in that place.
and if you were to say, if he were to build it, which he, we were indicated that he has already built it, that it's too close to the property line?
It's probably 12 inch from the property line.
Do you feel that, that it's diminishing the surrounding property values
Yes,
at
it
all?
sure does.
Do you think he has any other way to store his things, or?
Yeah, inside of his garage, it's always empty. Plenty of room in the garage. In the abutter, and I see.
Okay,
And the line of his property, the way he described it to you people, it's not the way I see it. This is about where the red line that you see there, this is part of my land, that I let him use the, put the fence there so we didn't have to cut the nice tree that we got there. So I let him use more of my land for this,
more land for what? For putting,
for his backyard, so we saved that tree. And this is what I'm getting now.
okay?
These drawings typically aren't to scale, but
No, it's not to scale at all. I think his lot is probably 40 by 100.
In the GIS online, doesn't, probably that definitive?
the GIS online is much closer, but again, an official survey would be, required to show points
The point,
unless,
right,
unless
that
there's
would be
property
very nice.
boundaries that are there property markers on the lot that you can see?
There's no market there.
Okay. So an official survey would be required in order to determine exactly where that is.
And it's the applicant who provided the dimensions to you that says it's within 8 feet or whatever
Yes.
from.
All right. Where the red lines are, this is the way the shed looks now. And the other red line is the property line, that it's my property.
But like you said, Brian, a survey would be the way to go.
To start with, anyway.
So you're saying he doesn't, you don't believe he actually needs it, there's not a hardship if we denied this application for him to build a shed in this property?
I don't
you
think
see there
so.
be an issue?
I don't think so. The slab of cement was there, it was for a dog kennel.
Okay, so the drawing you provided actually indicates that you believe the property line is actually
it's supposed to be.
further in from your, from
Yes,
where the restaurant is, right? Is there a
Right.
restaurant right there? Further in and also closer in from the back.
right.
Any questions for Mr. Cody here?
No.
All right, thank you.
I was always under the assumption that.
I actually do have one before Mr. Cody leaves. Just looking at this up here in the corner, this is the tree
This is the
that you're
tree, this is
indicating.
the tree, it's there now. And, 3/4 is in, 1/4 in his land, and the rest is on my side.
So it sits pretty much right on the property
Right,
line
we just saved the tree by
itself.
putting the fence on this side. I mean, on my side, so we saved that tree.
I was under the impression that whoever owned the property had to had to come in for the variance or give the permission for the gentleman to come in.
That's correct. What's the question? Let's understand the
If
question.
whoever owns the property is the one that's supposed to apply for the variance or give a letter stating that he's given him the authority to represent that property.
Oh, I see what you're saying, is that Mr. Clark is not actually the owner of the property.
Did Mr.
I think-
Piacentini?
I'm here.
I think we're
Oh,
we're
he
done
is.
with Mr. Cody, is that correct? Any questions for Mr. Cody? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
And your question was about
Yeah,
the
he's
owner of the
here now.
property?
Yeah, I didn't know if he was here to.
Okay. Any further question on that, Vivian?
Well, no, the only reason I was questioning it is that I didn't know if the owner knew that this is what the gentleman
Okay.
was going to do to his property.
Okay. All right, anyone else here to speak against or for the applicant, I guess?
On behalf of the applicant.
All right, come on up. I passed right past you, I guess. I didn't see your hand up before.
I didn't think there was a need, but since Mr. Cody spoke, there's a few things that I disagree with what he said. First of all, a guy came to me about building the shed. The garage needed some work anyway, and I already was aware of the situation with the storage units. And I says, and he told me about the platform being there, the cement platform, and he asked me about putting the shed up there. And I told him, fine, it's okay with me, not realizing that it was in violation of a code, and that's my mistake, it's not his. But that's why we're here. The other part is, it's a very small backyard, and there was a stockade fence that goes around, and Mr. Cody says every time he walks by, he can see the yard. He can't see the yard. There's a high stockade fence which is there, that you can't see the shed that he's building unless you're in the backyard. You can see maybe the top of it, but you can't see the shed itself. So, and then Mr. Cody went on to, in my opinion, misrepresent the property line. He's talking about a tree in that the stockade fence is 1 foot on his property. It is not. This issue came up when I purchased that home way back from Mr. Campazano. And he warned me about Mr. Cody, and he frankly said it this way: don't listen to him. You're not on his property. He's just been claiming that for years. And I actually had the realtor measure 50 feet across, which is where the property line of 1 foot is in dispute. And it was measured, and it's actually 49 feet. It's not 50 feet. So the stockade fence protects the shed, and we are not on Mr. Cody's property as he claims. I mean, if he's been there since 1968, I'm sure that tree grew a little bit. He may think it's on his property, but it's not. And there's only one way to prove that, and that's to have it surveyed, and I just never felt the need to have to do that. But in any case, that's the points that I felt that I should at least clear up. And if there's any questions that you might have of me, feel free.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Piacentini.
Piacentini.
Yes.
Okay. That's an easy question. All right, anybody else have any questions for him?
Well, wouldn't it be advantageous to have it surveyed to see if you have more property or less?
I measured it, ma'am. When I bought the home, the issue, that 1 foot issue came up with Mr. Campazano, the man that owned the home before me.
Right.
And I wouldn't buy the house unless if there's a property dispute. So I actually had the realtors measure it out. It wasn't surveyed, actually, but
Right.
it was measured out, and I measured it myself. And it only measures 49 feet. So this claim that Mr. Cody has that we're on his property is not true. And that's the part that I wanted to clear up here.
So this is the first I've heard about the fence. So the fence blocks the view. You said just maybe of the roof is.
Well, there was an old fence there. It rotted out, and Mr. Clark put up a new stockade fence. And exactly where the old one was. So there wouldn't be any argument. And that's when Mr. Cody brought up this whole subject again. So, and now there's a stockade fence there, and he can't see it as he claims he can. If you're at eye level, and if you're over 6 feet, maybe you can. But the stockade fence is 6.5 to 7 feet high. So the shed is not exposed to any view, back, front, side. Like I say, you can barely see the top of it. So,
How long have you owned the property?
I don't know, 7, 8 years.
And so in those 7, 8 years, was there a shed on that concrete pad?
No, I saw the cement slab there. There were doors, and to be honest with you, the side needed some work. It got a little wet, and guy wanted to reinforce the garage. He says, hey, well, why don't we just put a little shed there, and I get out of the storage units that I'm renting for 2 years. I said, sure, fine, go ahead. And,
But you as the owner don't need the storage units there, because you're not in the house or anything?
No, I don't. I was just trying to accommodate him. I wasn't even aware that he had a storage unit or two or whatever. And he says, I can bring that stuff and put it in the garage in that little area there. So I says, fine, go ahead and do it. Not realizing that there was any code violation, and, had I had known that,
Mr. Clark is a renter of yours then?
yes.
And so you're advocating that he can bring this again to say, let's put a storage, let's put a shed there? You're saying it's okay, but I mean, it's your property.
Yes,
And so you're giving him the permission to advocate, let's put a shed there.
yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
No, I just wanted to say that in that diagram that Mr. Cody did pass around, it did show stockade fence around the perimeter, so it was on his drawing.
Okay.
Did you see this?
I don't need to see that.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, any last questions? All right, thank you, sir. All right, that's just about covered everybody here. Anybody, last speakers? Please come forward. State your name.
I'm Mrs. Cody.
Okay?
I just want to clear something up that this man didn't exactly clear up. Our back porch, our kitchen door comes out right on top of that shed. It's right there in our face. And yes, we can see it, and it is an eyesore. And it's right up against the fence. We want to sell the home, and it diminishes the value. It's just a wreck. It's right there in our face. You come out our door, and it's right there. His garage was back in the backyard, so it wasn't such a thing being close. But this is actually an extension of the garage. It's not a standing shed. They blew out the side of the garage and made it bigger. It's really bothersome to us, very much so.
Okay. And when you said you're standing from the outside of your kitchen looking, are you talking about your piece, because we've been described that you have property behind and the property to
We
the
live in the
side,
house right behind it.
and you're speaking
and
from
that-
that perspective?
Yes, we come out our kitchen door and the stairs, you go down, and when you're standing on the stairs, you're looking down into the yard. The stockade fence is beneath you. It's down here.
Yeah.
So we're looking right at that. Yes, it is in the way. Yeah, it is.
Okay.
And property value, definitely, it's going to make an impact on that.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Cody?
Is the shed there now?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about? Is it finished?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any last people to speak? Any questions? Mr. Cody, I'm sorry, Mr. Clark, any last words that you haven't covered already, that we haven't addressed? Okay. All right, anyone? All right, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Unless there's anything else, and the public hearing is closed. Any discussion or recommendations or motions? Any issues that bother you? So the applicant is asking for a variance to finish the shed, that whether it's 6 inches or right on, or whether it's 2.6 inches from the property line, it's all still within either the 25-foot setback because it's attached to the garage. So,
10-foot setback for an accessory structure.
correct. So if it was separated from the garage, it would be a 10-foot setback.
Yeah, so I miswrote that in my report. I apologize.
What should it be? It's
10 feet.
So they're looking at, the zoning ordinance says it needs to be at minimum 10 feet. Okay, still, it's within that 10 feet?
How many feet is it, 2.5?
The applicant claims 2.6.
2.6.
2 feet 6
Yeah,
inches.
which is 2.5.
Oh.
2 feet 6 inches. And they make a claim that not contrary to public interest, spirit of the ordinance is observed, there is substantial justice, property is not diminished, property value is not diminished, and that there is a hardship if not built. Any motions?
So he's saying here the shed is not finished.
Shed is not finished.
But from the sound of what I'm hearing, it sounds like there's been substantial work done on it, framed out and sidewalls put up and things like that. If I
Right.
understood what Mr. Clark had to say, there's been a substantial investment of time and labor in it already.
Enough that the neighbors consider it an eyesore and it doesn't look right.
After final construction is complete, though, that may change the appearance.
That's what I'm wondering, how is he going to finish it off? If he has any intentions of finishing it off.
Now, if I
He made a statement that he was gonna put siding
And a metal roof.
and a metal roof.
Now, the question, did you inspect this, Brian, or have you seen the?
No, it was,
It sounds from what I've heard tonight, where we're not talking, when we call it a shed, is it really so much a shed, or he indicated that the top of this is attached to some sort of a rail, it's attached to the side of the garage and it slopes down, so is that really as much, is it a shed or a lean, or one of those like, you've seen them for boats and other things, like a lean-to extension to the side of the garage? I mean,
I haven't seen it myself, I didn't inspect it. Our building inspector and I think maybe Derek were the ones initially to take a look at this.
it just doesn't sound like it's a freestanding structure from what I've heard here tonight.
No, he did say it was attached.
Right.
I mean, are we dealing then with a different set of rules for a building, a building extension on the garage versus a freestanding accessory structure?
Well, I think if you were to just consider it, as the neighbor was saying, is that they just made the shed larger. It's an expansion of a non-conforming structure because it's already within the setback. So even if they were just to expand the garage, say, they would need to have a variance to do so.
I have a question. How much of the, how much of the structures cover the property? I think you're supposed to have just so much structures covering the property. Is it over-structured on the property or under-structured that they still have room for?
It's not in our application, and I know when Derek wrote the letter on March 31st, he identified the three things that they thought were the problem. Too much coverage wasn't one of the three.
It
The
was,
requirement for coverage in the commercial district is 40% maximum building coverage.
okay, 40% of maximum building coverage, and his acreage is 4,700?
Yes.
And he's got, let me see the assessment card here.
Gonna do the math.
How good are you at doing math in your head?
Yeah, well, you've got the garage,
Why we have cell phones?
How are you counting the slab?
the gross living area is 1679. The gross area is 3521. And he's got a garage that's got, is that the footage, 480 feet?
The garage is 24 by 20.
24 by 20? You're gonna make me do the math?
480.
480. 480 plus 3521 for the gross area. Or is that just, no, that's the land, right, the gross area?
No, the area of the land was larger. It was 4,700.
Okay, so when you've got the building, on the assessment card, you have the living area, 1679. Then you got the gross area is 3521.
But that's multiple floors.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, you're right.
So from that, we can't determine the footprint on the land. You could do a rough, from the drawing, 25 wide, 7 plus 23 plus 16. You know, you can start adding all the squares up.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Well, I would say you can't cover more than 40% of the property on a commercial,
Is it 40% of the structures or 40% of the impervious?
the
Just
structure.
Lot coverage for structures.
So structures.
Impervious area is not a regulation that we have in our zoning ordinance. And it's already impervious area anyway, because of the concrete slab that's
true.
there.
Why I got to that is that if he says he only's got 8 feet when he gets out of his house, I mean, he hasn't got much land left. Are you trying to figure that out?
Well, you've asked the question.
I know, go ahead. Approximate.
Hang on. We're doing math on
What
TV.
size is this shed?
Hmm?
What size is it? 8 by?
8 by 16.
It's pretty big.
It's the size of the slab.
Yeah. But I want to know the,
Probably not quite.
he's trying to,
A
he's,
little bit on each side.
he's figuring out the house and the garage. We've already got the garage, 480 feet. But now it's the house. It's a 2-tenement, is it? 1 story.
What size of the garage you said? 480?
Yeah.
Yeah, 480 is the garage.
So with the house, first floor, and that includes the little side buildings, the main
Yep.
entrance, plus the garage, we're only at 1,770.
How much?
1,770 square feet, which isn't,
Huh?
it's not
You already had, the living area was already 1679.
multiple floors. We're just talking footprint.
First floor, crawl space, attic expansion.
The whole, all levels of 1679? Okay.
Well, they've got the first floor and the attic is 1679. Everything else is 0,
So,
plus 480.
right.
Okay.
Is that including the shed that they built?
No.
No, but that's gonna be not significant.
Okay.
That's another 120. 1,890. We're still less than half. Well, okay, so, is it 40%?
Right.
And that includes the wood deck and the porch open, unfinished. That looks like another
What's
50.
40%?
Multiply it by, well, 40%, multiply,
she said 40.
multiply.
Got
the-
it. All right, so not including that little steps in the back, because there's no dimensions on that. So with the shed being 480, the house footprint being 1290, plus the 128 for the shed, it comes to 1,890, divided by 4791, and you come up with 39.45%.
Wow, almost 40%. That's not including your,
That's not including the shed.
No, that is included.
Oh, that is included.
It's not including the little steps in the back, because there's no dimension on the steps.
I think it's hard to determine the impact of this shed sitting here. Would be nice if we could go do a little site walk or something. And just by looking at this aerial photo, if the Codys live in this White House, which I think is what she said,
Yeah.
and that shed is right there, I could see where it would be bothersome to be looking out
I
onto
agree,
this
to go
big
looking
shed.
at it. I went by today, and I didn't stop because there's too much traffic. Once they let the bridge go by, you can't stop, so I just went by it. But, yeah, I would like to go and look at this, you know, justify my decision.
I mean, one of the things that strikes me here is the real threshold issue of this whole thing about replacing non-conforming with something non-conforming. You know, it's not like there was, and, you know, we're talking 8, 10, 12 years possibly before that. We've had a concrete slab sitting there, and while I can understand the logic of an owner, somebody saying, we got the foundation already in place, let's make use of it. I mean, it would essentially be, logic would say you'd need to go through a new construction process because, you know, you're not replacing anything that's been there within the time of ownership. It strikes me that's kind of like a real threshold issue here, that they dived into this without figuring out that, you know, if there hadn't been anything there for 10 years, this is new construction. This isn't just replacing of a rotten shed that you knocked down.
But even putting that aside, even if that never happened, they're still here asking for a variance to the setback for this new shed.
Right, they're not asking for, give me a grandfather
Right.
because I had it there.
Right.
Right.
And
The other thing from what Mr. Clark also said, that apparently the slab that it's sitting on is non-conforming to start with. He indicated he's pulled the shed framework back, but the actual slab runs right up to the property line, so.
Well, with 2 feet, 6 inches or 5 inches, how in God's name did he go build it? Did he just, I mean, you only get 2 feet. How did he get back there to build it?
From what he indicated, he just took, like you would for
put the wall
interior
up and-
construction, nail gunned
Yeah,
a base plate into the concrete.
yeah.
And it sounds like you said before, it's not, maybe we shouldn't be calling it a shed because
Mhm.
it sounds like it's an extension of the
Extension of the garage.
garage.
And I would offer up that, that being the case, it would be a different section of the code for the variance. It would be section 14.9.2.1 that states, structure shall not be enlarged or altered in any way, in a way that increases its nonconformity, but any structure or portion thereof may be altered to decrease its nonconformity. That would be probably the more appropriate section,
from that,
altering an existing
is
structure.
that a variance or a special exception requirement?
That is a variance,
Brian, what section was that again?
14.9.2.1.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's attached, right. I mean, you know, so if they come to us and, I mean, it changes the flavor of the variance a little bit, still a variance. Are you recommending anything with that? That we set this aside, they have to come back with a different variance? We can still address it here?
I believe the
Have to be
information,
re-advertised. If it wasn't advertised properly, it should be re-advertised to what they're really asking for. But, go ahead, I'm not in charge
Well,
here.
I guess I don't know the answer to that, but I was gonna just assume that if the information is presented in this public hearing, that would suffice, but I don't know the answer for sure. I don't know the legal opinion on that.
We have altered, no, I can't say altered the application, but we have used opinions and used criteria from other areas, I think, that weren't presented in the initial application, and we've looked at other sections of the code and stuff.
We're not changing what they presented.
Right, we're not changing what they presented.
On previous applications, you're saying?
Yeah, previous applications, we've looked at other areas and said, oh, I think this was more applicable
Yeah.
than what was presented
I
by the
don't,
applicant.
I don't think that it's necessarily a requirement to go back out and re-notify for something like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we weigh as a board if we believe it's significant enough. That would bring in different comments.
I think the fundamental reasoning for us either way when we look at the two ordinances is that we are still dealing with deciding that it is a non-conforming structure.
No matter how
Whether
you
it
look
be,
at it.
whether it be
Yeah.
an attachment to the garage, or whether it be a shed that is attached to the garage, we're still discussing the issue of nonconformity.
But I think it does matter, because if you're adding on to the garage, which is, you know, a larger structure, more permanent than a shed would be. Shed doesn't necessarily stand or, you know, stay around as long as a garage would. So I think our decision to allow the expansion of a garage has more weight in it than if we were to allow a shed, because a shed seems somewhat insignificant, because usually they're not there for more than, you know, X number of years.
Yes, but when it comes to non-conforming structures, the goal is to reduce the non-conformity,
Right.
not to increase it.
Again,
Can't add to
Derek's letter did speak to that. He said replacement of a well, he said replacement of a non-conforming structure. He didn't say growth of one.
Cannot add nonconformity to an unconforming structure.
So that's what the variance would have to be for.
All right, well, I'm gonna make a motion to deny the variance request. Because I believe in this case, that there is no substantial justice done, that the values of the surrounding properties may be diminished, or will be diminished, and that I did not find it credible, the hardship requirement in identifying the need and the loss of this, item. Considering the discussion and the presentation between the owner of the property and the present renter.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the denial of the application, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose?
Oppose it.
Abstain? 4-1. Against the variance. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep. So that was detailed enough. Okay, so that was the last of our public hearings. We did receive in the correspondence folder, there's a Town and City magazine. Looked at it. Was there anything in there of interest in the Town and City magazine?
I don't have time to read that magazine, so.
I'll tell you what Derek used to say. Derek used to look at it, and if there was anything that was of value, he would make sure he pointed it out to us.
I will make the attempt in the future to do that.
Well, what I might do, is this the ZBA's copy of it?
Yes, you can keep that if
Do
you'd
you mind
like.
if I take it and just look at it and see if there's anything of value in it? Brian's time is of significance.
Brian is a
Full.
man of many hats.
Yes.
Yes.
There are LGC workshops, May 9th through the 11th. What workshops are those? Or just that there's a number of them, or?
Yeah, honestly.
How do you put this together?
Oh, come on,
She
Brian.
helps me out a lot. She puts all that stuff in there, and some of it I never even look at. And
Okay. They routinely do workshops, I think is what it
Is
comes
that the one where it's a series of 3 and they have different locations and, you know, we've always gone to the one in Derry?
No.
No?
These
No?
are,
That's That's like
Just
the
for-
right to know law.
Yeah,
and
just a town, it's for town officials, it's like just a constant cycle
For
of.
any town official, not land use.
Right. You can go to the website and see them all as well. That the New Hampshire Office of Environmental Planning Conference registration is open for the June 11th conference. I know there's a couple people here gonna go.
Yep, I registered.
I'm going as well.
I'm going.
You
I'm
going?
going.
You going?
You going, Joanne?
All right, that's.
I'm
come
working.
on. Oh,
Poor
Again?
Lynn.
I,
ever gone before?
Going on your terms.
no, but I'm going
You're gonna
I
be
always
not
do
available
that.
to go?
to. I'm wearing a hat one of it.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
It's no pressure. This is
Oh, I
just-
know.
We're just coming around. It seemed like it was a running thing. Everybody's going.
Well, I would have,
It's a good thing, so.
Those of us who work.
I should be done by then, but I don't know, I'm
All
not
right.
sure.
It's those are good. Again, the town does pay for the registration, which
Are
is
you
a good
going,
deal.
Brian?
I am not. I am actually gonna be at a conference the previous 2 days, so I figured, nah, I'm not gonna go conference for the next one as well. So,
Are you registered, both of you?
Well, I'd hate to register or not.
Kathy, have you already sent your
Mhm.
information in? Okay.
I sent mine.
Is
in
this
to
on the, is
direct.
this on a website too, Kevin? This?
Which
I
one?
didn't- I didn't get that, the conference for June 11th.
I know the LGC website has it, but you know what? You could probably have this handout right
Take
here.
that flyer.
I don't remember.
There's a flyer. You can keep it.
I don't remember seeing it.
That's not the right
That's-
one.
That's
it?
not the right one.
You're talking the LGC?
The
Oh,
OEP.
no, the OEP,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've been
Is there a
to this
flyer
one.
in here?
twice.
Maybe.
We got it all.
We all
online.
got, we were all emailed
Did you get it on the email?
From,
Derek.
Patty. But,
If not, here you go.
yeah.
just got my computer back, so
Oh, there you go.
I have a, oh, wow, I should be here someplace.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get back to Patty on this. I just,
The town does set aside dollars for us to do training and things like that, so
right,
it's always a good thing to do. And the legal update is always, I think, the most.
it's right
Yeah, I always
down.
sign up for that one.
And then the last thing on the correspondence and action items, we had received a letter from Teresa Golding, who abuts the Cumberland Farms on Mass Street. I believe you all received a copy of that letter.
Yep.
Is there I mean, I read it. Is there something before the planning board now regarding this application?
Not at this time. They have come to the planning board for conceptual review and are working towards coming back in. They will need a couple of variances at least, so they will be coming before you. One's for setbacks, and I think the other one might be for their sign or something like that. Anyway, they have yet to respond. But I sent them a letter, basically telling them all the variances and planning board conditional use permits and actions that, they would have to be seeking in order to get a final approval for their current design of their site. And so I just sent them that earlier this week, so we're working on that. But Teresa sent letters to several people, not only to the ZBA, but also to the police chief and to the public works director, stating different concerns. I think some of the concerns were on sidewalks and lighting and that kind of thing. Trucks.
Is I know I attended a planning board meeting a month ago, so we're talking about processes. Does the planning board implemented that conceptual, you get together with a landowner to come up with what they're talking about before it was actually presented to the planning board? Is that process taking place, or? is that
Yeah,
what
I
they're-
mean, I've dealt with the applicant a few times already, working on design issues, and, we talked about, there's some things that are just gonna be inevitable, they're gonna have to go for variances and that kind of thing, so. But, yeah, we implemented the, well, first we did our in-house staff meeting with the applicants, and then they came and did a conceptual with the planning board.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, and so now they've gotten through that part. the planning board had a few comments for them, so they're considering all of those. One of them was, well, we don't know if you really want that sidewalk in front of you, and that's one of the things I think maybe that was mentioned in your letter. So that'll be something to consider, I think, for the planning board and for the development, for the DPW.
You don't believe that the planning board will look at the application again until it comes to us, though, do you? I mean, if it needs to come to us?
I believe it will come to you first.
Okay.
Before the planning board gets it again. Although they may submit one big application that says, okay, here's our site plan application. We would like to also apply for variances at the same time. So the application may go to the planning board for acceptance at least, and then also come to you at the same time for the variance portions of it. And so I'm not sure exactly how they're gonna.
That wouldn't
do
make
that,
sense for
but-
them to go for acceptance first, because then the 65-day clock starts. And if their timing isn't just right, and they could waste 30 of it waiting for us to.
But they can waive the 65-day
Yeah.
clock too. So.
Or we deny them and it just gets all wasted. But, you know, you hate to do more work. You know, it's always that struggle of how much work you do before you get all the other previous steps done.
Considering, and the amount of man-hours that you put into something that hasn't even been, come forward before the zoning board for approval, and the town is putting X amount of man-hours into conceptual site plans, that would be concerning to me.
That's one of the things that the planning board's looking to kind of streamline in some of their things that they're doing.
It's important, though, to work with applicants up front to get as much as possible, you know, worked out before it gets to the boards. Because
I agree.
then, by the time it gets to the boards, it's a little easier to get through the process and not so time-consuming.
And just like tonight, it's much better to understand which zoning ordinance section are we looking at? What are they, have they thought through what they're presenting and why do they need it? Do they understand why they need a variance? So when they present it to us, they're not out for here speaking about something over here that really doesn't pertain to something. Not saying that's what happened tonight, but it's always right to be focused, just like the planning board. It's good to be focused with what's critical to be presented, and you, and then understand what they're needing, and then we can understand it as well. So, yeah, there's always that balance of how much work to do ahead of time.
And they've got a good project, I think, you know, it'll make that area a lot nicer with what they're doing, so hopefully everything will go through.
Okay. I think that was the last on the correspondence items. Anyone have any discussion points, comments, or motions?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll take 6 votes on that.